Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself, I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. JJ and Alex, another afternoon right here with you on the KSL Sports Zone. 97.5 is where you're dialing in the FM, 1280 on the AM. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. I love this version of JJ. With the T-shirt on, looking like...
This is I don't give a crap, JJ.
You know what? I don't give a crap. JJ is my favorite JJ. It's the kind of attitude that we want on this show.
This is the I don't care, JJ.
Now, look, we care about the show. Yeah! We care about our listeners. But for the time being, we don't care how we look here in studio. I'm the one with the collared. I'm the one with the collared shirt on. Even if Jeremy's like, oh, we're going to get cameras in here. We're going to have to. No.
I did shower and comb my hair.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. He showered and combed his hair, everybody. He's Jeremiah Jensen, KSL 5 Television and the KSL Sports Zone. JJ, what's up, man? Everything good today?
Everything's great. We're halfway through the week. Beautiful weather outside.
Oh, my gosh. It's full on summer.
Summer's great. I'm making headway in my yard.
Ooh.
You know, when you're 46 years old, that's all that really matters, right?
That's the thing that's the stuff that you look forward to.
That's how you measure progress in your life. How's the yard coming?
Yeah. And here's the thing is, like, we were gone, and
I know.
Right. And I left the sprinklers off because it still had.
Alex.
I got some scorch going on.
Uh-oh.
I think we should be okay, though. Should be okay.
A little crispy in your yard?
We mowed it today. There's a couple of spots where I was like, ooh, we got to hit these a little bit hard. And that's what we're doing. But yes, like you said, conversations about the yard work. That's where we've moved to in our life. And you know what? That's where a lot of our listeners are too. Yard Care Dad is a lot of the listeners out there. And we're okay with that. I do have some stuff too. Have you ever I'm trying to figure out I have to like get a bunch of stuff out. I hate that the most. Digging things out. I can't stand digging stuff out.
Oh, I've done a lot of digging the last.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it. And so I'm like, I got to wait. Maybe in the mornings when the sprinkler did hit them, maybe the ground's a little softer, but then you're all muddy. Anyway, these are first world problems.
Sprinklers are the worst.
Yes, they are. All right. Well, we've got tons to jump into on the program today. I don't know if you know this, JJ, but the NBA Finals are starting tomorrow. We're going to have
finally?
Yes, we're going to have
Oh, good.
We're going to have a rousing game of Name That Finals coming up a little bit later in the show. Not arousing, all right? That was what my kid was one of those distinguished.
That make for interesting
No,
radio.
it was one of those defining lines where I said, "Hey, we got to tell you the difference between these two words here, buddy." Because he was like, "Oh yeah,
enunciation matters."
I had an arousing conversation with one of my friends today. I said, "I really hope you didn't." Okay, our show is brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, and nutritious boost. They always are a part of the program. And let's kick off the hour as we like to do the very top of the hour here. Let's have a college football conversation. We like to have those as well. Let's kick off the program right here with The Cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This portion of the show brought to you by Trajan Wealth, planning out retirement in style. Local trusted financial fiduciaries, Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com is the website. All right. JJ, I don't know what the new world of college football is going to bring when it comes to scheduling, because in the new format, the thought was, hey, there are more teams that are going to be able to get into the college football playoff. That means you don't have to be so soft in your scheduling. But what we're starting to see is programs going, yeah, but what if we went super soft in the scheduling? Then that would really get us into a spot where we could be in that position to say, hey, we're the 11th best team in the country. We're the 10th best team in the country. Even if we're not the conference champions, we're right there. So what we thought was going to be that possibility of running up there and seeing a lot more competitive football, you could actually see more teams, even in the SEC, I know it's a shock, even in the SEC and the Big Ten, who are on track. Those are the two conferences, JJ, that want to get 3 or 4 teams in, and it'll be a bust for them if they don't get 2, 3, 4 teams in the college football playoff with the new format. And so you're starting to see some of these teams really start to get crazy with their scheduling. So is it better to schedule even more super soft, or to say, you know what, let's challenge ourselves in our non-conference and then go into conference play and be one of the best in our conference and still feel like we could roll the dice and be in the college football playoff?
It should be like the NCAA tournament, where your resume matters. When it comes time to pick the teams, the at-large teams for the college football playoff, this year it's 12. In the future, it could be 14, 16. We don't know where this is going. But right now, we're working with 12, so let's stick with 12. So if you want to be one of those at-large teams, you should have a resume that stands out. How do you make a resume that stands out? You play a tougher non-conference schedule. Because everyone's playing, all the Big Ten teams are playing each other. It's the SEC. All the Power Four are playing tough conference schedules. So what's going to set everybody apart? Well, it's the non-conference schedule. Which teams were willing to roll the dice and go out and play a tough game? Was Michigan willing to go play Auburn, whether it's a neutral site or on the road?
The answer is no. They played UNLV. What did they play last year? No. Was it Bowling Green and UNLV last year for them?
Yeah, UNLV was their toughest non-conference schedule. The national champions.
I know.
Michigan built a national championship on the backs of the UNLVs of the world.
That was the format you had to do it with.
But it worked.
Yes, you had to get into
and
those Final Four.
And that's bad for college football.
Terrible.
Because what do we want? We want great games. And if this is where everything is going, with where you're eventually going to have this Power 4 break off, or where Big Ten or SEC break off, people don't want to tune in and watch Michigan Bowling Green. That's not going to get it done. And they have to make sure their TV partners are happy. As somebody who works at KSL TV, last year we had Charlotte and Maryland in prime time on Saturday night. An absolute goose egg. Nobody watched that. Hey, Big Ten, what are you doing?
Listen,
can you do better than this?
Hey, JJ, I love your pure, innocent thoughts of let's make college football better. But here's the thing. It's terrible for college football. But you know what it is? It's great for your individual team out there, for people who are listening. It's great for your teams that aren't typically in the conversation. Okay? When was BYU last in the conversation about being a top 10 team? 2020, right? What did that schedule look like? And I know it was because of the
weird year. You can't throw that year out. You got to throw that year out.
I get it, but
you see what we're doing.
But you see what we're doing here? If you are BYU, schedule an I hate the FCS games, and I've told you that before. But you know what? If you're going to play with the big dogs, and again, it's awful for college football to say the FCS and soft cupcake games and blah, blah, blah to get you in. Do it, because you have to win games. And you have to be a part of that conversation. I'm not saying BYU this year. Utah should do the same thing. If you are a Big 12 school, you are already behind the 8 ball when it comes to being in this conversation with the SEC and the Big Ten. You're already competing with an SEC that will likely still play Mercer in November, likely still put Furman on the books in November. Because what do they know? What we have all known, which is if you can, because the rest of the schedule is really tough. And so the college football committee goes, yeah, but they played an SEC schedule. I know they beat Furman, and I know they beat New Mexico State. I know in Alabama's case, I know they beat Utah State at home. Tough one, right? They do that. And so if you're going to compete with those programs, it's not good for college football, but it's better for your individual team, if you're listening out there, to be able to soften that schedule up. And I don't love it, But if you're going to play the freaking game, you play the freaking game.
If that's for the best, then the system has to change. You have to provide a greater incentive to schedule better. And I'm just going to speak to fans of both teams, Utah, BYU. If you're Utah and you're a Utah fan, what did you enjoy more? What would you enjoy more? That game at Florida where it's 50-50, you win? Obviously, they came up short at the end. Or would you rather go to Laramie and play Wyoming? Or would you rather play Wyoming at home?
Well, obviously,
what game interests? What as a fan, if you're going to pay for a game and go on a trip, what do you want to do? What experience do you want in the non-conference? I think every Utah fan is going to say we want that Florida experience. For those of you who went to the Florida game, even though they came up short at the end, you got to experience the swamp. That's what college football is all about: is the experience.
Still went to the Rose Bowl.
The atmosphere.
Still went to the Rose Bowl.
100%.
Yes.
You didn't lose anything by taking on Florida, taking on that risk.
I get it.
Last year, they went to Baylor. That was great. It went Utah's way. It wasn't a great Baylor team. It was a weird Utah year. But would you have rather played at Baylor or at Fresno State, as they had in previous years? You're going to take the Baylor experience.
Yeah,
right?
But.
Did you lose anything by going to Baylor or Florida, all these teams? BYU's playing in Laramie this year.
Ooh.
You're also playing at SMU.
Sure.
But if you're going to go to SMU, wouldn't you just rather have gone to Ole Miss?
Right.
Or
I get it.
Or Georgia. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to go play a tough one on the road, make it count. Like, I don't understand the mentality. And this is a Big Ten SEC thing. This is about those schools saying, we don't have to play hard, non-conference, and we're not going to play 9. We're only going to play 8. I think the Big Ten's different. I think the Big Ten's doing 9, but the SEC's doing 8 conference games.
Plus Furman.
It's so FCS, that stupid SoCon week. They get away with it.
It's not just about the SoCon week.
They've been
It's
getting
where
away with it
it's where they put it.
Forever.
It's putting it in November where you're like, what are we doing?
They're getting a bye week.
They absolutely are.
And it's not good for college football. You're in the middle of November. You want to watch a great game, and you turn on an SEC on ESPN this year is going to be Alabama at, I don't know. I don't even know the teams.
Look, you're usually the more
Jacksonville.
You're usually the more like, hey, this is what you're the reality check guy normally. But the reality check for you today, JJ, is even though Utah played Baylor in Florida last year, right? It was a down Florida team that came to Utah. You can't plan out whether or not it's a down team or not. It's fine. They played them at the Swamp. They played them in Salt Lake, and they beat them. It was a terrible Florida team, and Baylor was not good either. And guess what? They were 2-0 against Florida and Baylor. Great. And then the next week, they played Weber State, right? They put Weber State.
I have no problem with that.
So that's all I'm saying is.
But at least go play that home run game, that game against another Power 4 from another conference.
From somewhere else, yes.
Why not? What are we afraid of here? One loss is not going to keep you out of the college football playoff. You win your conference, you're in. And if it comes down to you getting that at-large, you can say, hey, we played tough. We went and played at Michigan. We went and played at Notre Dame.
Right.
We went and played wherever.
You know what the committee says? At the Gaylord Hotel in Grapevine, Texas at the end of the year? That's cute. And then they move right past you and look at another team.
Why,
if
though?
you have 2 losses and you're in the Big 12 and you're not the conference champion, they would pass you up 1,000 times for a 3-loss Auburn or a 3-loss Alabama team. You know what I mean? That's how it's going to be. However,
but this year they do it to Utah anyway because it's Southern Utah, Baylor at home, and Utah State. They're not going to respect that.
No, of course not.
So
no.
Utah's got to win the whole thing to get a playoff.
But they have to respect it if those are all wins and it ends up being that they are 11-1 at the end of the year versus a 10-2. Right? I mean, going into the conference championship, if they go to the conference championship game at 11-1 and they play a 10-2 Kansas State team in the Big 12 championship game and they lose, then what happens?
They're done.
It's over. But if you go into that thing and you're up there, I guess the better comparison would be if you're 11-1 versus a 10-2 going to that championship game. 11-1. And you lose in that conference championship game, you still might be on that fringe 10, 11, 12 kind of territory in the rankings. And so it's not necessarily just about putting you ahead of one of these SEC teams. It's going to be about, well, we're putting them at 12 because they were 8 last week and they lost in their conference championship game. And there are a couple teams that didn't even play in conference championship games. Maybe going into that, which is the way the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10 end up. There's always a Penn State in there that's really darn good, but they're not in the conference championship game. So here's what Joel Klatt said about it, because he wants the NCAA. Why would you want the NCAA or anybody? But he wants the college football playoff folks to create a non-conference schedule so that there could be across the board a unifying way of doing this. Here's what he had to say about it.
I would love if we stopped allowing individual teams to control their own schedule. The Detroit Lions don't build their own schedule.
Right.
And the New York Giants don't build their own schedule. And I don't think that we should do it in college football either, in particular as we're moving into an era where we're going to have a 12-team playoff and we're going to have to rate these teams somehow against one another for inclusion into the most important now tournament in college football, which is going to be the college football playoff. I firmly believe that we need some sort of agreement on how many conference games we're all going to play within our conferences, and then the non-conference games need to go into a pool, and we need to start playing each other more often. So it's not USC's job to move off of Notre Dame as much as it is college football's job and some overarching governing body scheduling, and in particular for parity, so that the best teams have to play the most difficult schedules and the worst teams have some break, in particular in their non-conference slate. That's what I would like to see. I can't stand what we do right now in college football, which is allowing these athletic directors to build their schedules 10, 12, 14 years out, in the back of a cigar bar. Hey, you want to play in 2033? Sure. Well, we won't be there. I mean, what are we doing, right?
Yeah.
Agree 100%.
There's so much truth to that.
Agree 100%.
We've always hated that. You remember the old BYU media days? These are dark times. When it was just an independent media days for BYU. They did a phenomenal job, right? Brett Pine and the whole media crew. They did a phenomenal job building something up when there wasn't a rest of a conference to be able to build up around it. But what would they roll out? USC versus BYU in 2026, right? Or 20. It was, now it's like, I remember the 2020.
There were 2030 games by the end, right?
And they were like, look what they're going to play. And you're going, I'm not interested in that. Guess what? Joel Klatt's exactly right. By the end, your Tennessees and your Notre Dames would go, actually, we're not coming out there. We're not coming out. We'll cut you a check. And in BYU's case, it's a win-win for us. Either they play us or they cut us a check.
Yeah.
And it was almost just as good to get $2 million from Tennessee than it was to get anything else.
And a win. Wisconsin, win.
Yes, absolutely. But
although Wisconsin, to their credit, did come out here and kick BYU's butt.
And kicked the crap out of them. And then the next year, what BYU do?
Got them at the end.
They went out to what is that?
Madison.
Yeah, but what's that stadium called? Something Campbell? What is it? Now I'm coming up short in my head. I don't know why. I've been there twice.
Camp Randall.
I'm like, why? I combined them and made them Campbell. Yeah. Oh, dude, you've been up in that press box during the jump around.
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I was never assigned those games.
I will tell you what it's like. It's terrifying because the entire stadium is jumping around.
That sounds like an amusement ride.
The media is not jumping around.
I bet.
Nobody in the press box jumping around. But you know what we're doing? We're all looking at each other going, when was the last time this thing got updated seismic-wise? And you're all about to fall out of your seat because the whole thing's shaking. It's a phenomenal place to be. But those are the games you want to play. But when they end up being losses on your schedule and you go, well, shoot, you might as well just schedule UTEP and take a win. Because what is right now in BYU's case, what is a successful season?
This year?
This year, last year, like right now in the program in the Big 12, what's a successful season right now? Bowl eligibility.
100%.
And
next step.
And that is a hard thing to come by when you're 2-7 in conference, right?
Yes.
And so
impossible.
If you can
I shouldn't say that. There's plenty of 5-7 teams that have gotten
for
shot.
Sure.
I take that back.
But if you're looking at your schedule later and you go, man, although they had Sam Houston last year, right? They had.
We should have known.
Did they have Southern?
That game was such a tell.
Did they have Southern Utah last year too? Or was that the year before? I'm getting all my years mixed up. What was the year that the Southern Utah's coach was like, "Oh yeah, BYU wasn't even. We were the better team." That was last year.
Yeah.
So they played Sam Houston, brand new FCS or FBS team. They played Southern Utah, and fans got tricked at 4-1. Right?
Yeah.
Fans got tricked, and the committee doesn't get tricked in a year that BYU could rattle off more wins. If it's 11-1 though, and that one loss, and those 11 wins happen to be on the back of beating a Sam Houston and a Southern Utah, a lot of times the 11-1 is good enough to get you to that top 12 ranking, and you will outduel a 3-loss Florida team in the future. I really think so. So it's not good for college football, but you might have to play the game for a minute if you really are on the cusp. This is we talk about this with the NBA Finals, right? Which is like, oh, dude, what can we do right now at this very moment? Because I think this is it, man. We got to make a run. So what you do is you've got to figure out a way to schedule those games against teams that you know you can dunk on to give yourself the best shot. Because what are you up against? The end of the year, trying to figure it out with those SEC and Big Ten teams that you're always going to lose to, unless you can say, yeah, but we only lost one game this year and you guys lost 3. You have to be in that conversation.
But I can't wait till we get to the day where they just break this apart, pull it all together, make a college football highest division, a commissioner, do exactly what Joel Klatt says. Everyone's going to have the schedule's going to be the same. They're going to treat it just like the NFL, make divisions just like they do in the NFL, handle it just like they do in the NFL, because that's essentially what it is anyway.
It would be interesting.
Because you're paying players anyway. So
yes.
let's just do it. The NFL's done it the right way for a long, long time. Just follow their model. Just make it a college version.
Okay.
Because other than there's no difference now with the pay, except NFL players are making 5 or 10 times more.
Right.
But in some instances, no. So
right.
But that would be the way to fix all this. There needs to be some uniformity in how this works, because you can't have the SEC and the Big Ten being the bullies, playing by their own rules and controlling the show, and then telling everyone else to stick it. And there's no consistency here. Everything
right.
And Joel Klatt's ideas would be perfect.
Okay, you know what would be fun though, because now I'm going to take it a little further. The schedule reveal on your non-conference would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Look what the NFL does.
You already know what you're doing with those other 9 games, right? In conference play, you already know who you're going to be playing. So when they roll out those other 3 games,
can you imagine finding
how
out
much,
like a lottery type thing where it's like, boom, guess who you're playing?
Yes.
And they reveal it one at a time. You're like, oh,
right. And when
awesome.
Alabama gets UTSA,
roll down tide.
and then the conspiracies come out. Oh, college football's cooking this
Well, do you
thing.
think I care?
No, as long as you can get into the college football playoff. No, I love the idea, and I would tell you too. I think that Tom Holmoe, I mean, talk about a guy who's got scheduling fatigue.
Oh man,
right?
Like Tom needs a break.
Yes, talk about a guy who's got, and all of these guys, they have to sit down at a table and go, would you like to play us? And it's like, I don't know. That was what Joel Klatt talked about, right? Like getting together some stupid bar and going, we should play you in 5 years. No, let the college football play. And you know what? Have it be similar to what you see with the NFL. National champion, week 1, plays on the road against a contender somewhere else. It's must-watch football.
Who wouldn't watch Georgia, Michigan week 1?
As it is, you get those.
On a Thursday night.
As it is, you get those periodically. And why? Why? Because there's money attached to them. They've basically made them bowl games, right? They have these opening games. The Texas opener, at Cowboy Stadium. You got the one. There's always one with a big logo in the middle of the field at the Georgia Dome. Georgia played Oregon a couple years ago in that game. Neutral site game, by the way, for Georgia.
Well, they used to try. They were trying to do that in the 80s and 90s. Remember, was it BYU in 1991 played Florida State to open the season?
Yes.
Like a kickoff classic. They kind of abandoned that. At least it feels like they did. Like, that was amazing. Like, why can't we do that again? That's how it should be. You should find matchups and games that people want to watch early in the season. Not having, look, and my apologies to the FCS schools. They need the money, they need the revenue, but how excited are you? Honestly, BYU fan, be excited. Or be honest, how excited are you about playing Southern Illinois week 1?
The only reason that it's exciting is because it's week 1.
How that thriller last year between BYU and Sam Houston, must-see TV. That was amazing.
14-0.
Get out of here with those games. I don't want to watch that. I know everybody likes the tune. I know. I get why the teams like it. They like the tune-up. They like the low-risk opener.
This is the only way.
I don't. I'm
Right.
the consumer. I'm watching the product. And if we're going to treat this like entertainment, and there's players in this game getting 6- and 7-figure salaries from NIL, you better entertain me, or I'm turning it off. It changes your perspective on it.
If the SEC and the Big Ten and the College Football Playoff Committee, now this would have to be agreed on by, here it comes, presidents and chancellors, right? It would have to be like some athletic directors, chancellors would have to vote on it, right? Until Alabama and Ohio State has the same scheduling rules outside of their conference play. And by the way, make them play 9. By the way, make that standard. Make them play 9, or you make everybody play 8. I'm okay for that. Make everybody play 8 and make that out of conference schedule 4 games even more fun.
If you have how many in the SEC right now? 16? Or are they at 18? Where are they at with numbers? 16?
29.
So you have 16 teams in your conference. You're only going to play half of them?
Yeah, that's stupid.
Give me a break.
Every 3 years you might match up. Yeah, come on. All right.
You're going to play half of them. We're division champions. Put us in the title game.
I'm all for it. Until the Big Ten and the SEC play by those rules and the scheduling is the same, schedule the cupcakes for me. Because then you can at least sort of be on the equal playing ground with those guys. Give yourself a chance. All right. I know you don't agree with that, but I'm all for it. And you know what? In the past, I've criticized those FCS games. Now I can be the hero and say, I think that they could use that revenue, JJ. I can't believe you hate those FCS schools. How dare you? All right. We'll take a break. We will come back. We've got more to go around the corner. 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.